Hey guys, thanks for joining me, and this will be part two of our statistical calculations video. Now, I looked back at the time and realized it's quite time consuming, right? Defining all this and doing all the calculations. And if it felt a bit tedious for you watching that video and slaving your way through the calculations, good, because that's the exact point I was trying to make. There was a lot that went into doing these things the long way, as I'd like to say it. But what I'm going to do now, we have what we did before, have all our calculations. That's cool. We have a point of reference. And I'm going to scroll down to a frequency distribution table I've made for these values here. Now, yes, if you may remember from the previous video, well, not the video on frequency distribution tables. Yeah, they take a little bit of time to construct, but we are going to now revisit these and we're going to see how much easier, in my opinion, it is to look for and calculate our modes, our ranges, our medians, and our means once we have done, I guess, the grunt work to construct this table. And in a lot of your textbooks, the tables will already have been drawn. So all you have to do is essentially just fill in the blanks, right? So I'm going to move this to the side. And for some of you, you may already be seeing why this is already a little bit easier. And in a minute, well, in a few minutes towards the end of the video, we'll see why this f of x column, this column is so important. So let's go again. We'll calculate all our things again, but they're going to be so much easier to do now. So we've drawn this table. What's our mode? Well, the highest value in our frequency column. Bang. Already we've got it, right? Oops. Our mode is 3 because my frequency column tells me so. I've already done the hard work, right? Now I can just read off my table. The range. Well, all I have to do is look at my scores, and I'm just going to write R for range. I have my smallest and my largest. The range is kind of the same whether you have all the numbers written out in a data set or whether you have a table. You basically just read off the lowest and the highest. And we remember from the last video that our range was 18 minus 3, and that gave us 15. Cool. Okay, now let's look at the mean. So I think I did the mean in red, didn't I? Yes. Just to color coordinate it, keep it nice and coherent. Okay. Well, we already know what our mean was from our last video, but you may be able to see here that this fx column was quite significant. In addition to these two totals columns. Well, let's look at why. What is our f of x? What is the effect of filling in all of these values for our fx column and adding them together? Well, it's exactly the same as summing all of our terms. It's the same as multiplying our score by the frequency and doing that for everything and summing it for everything. Now, why? Well, here, this was the same as our fx here, which is 12, right? This is just telling us, well, we have 3, and that happens 4 times. So we have 4 lots of 3. So So the effect of adding together our fx's is just the process of, well, taking each of our numbers and adding them together. But this is just quicker because if we know that there's 4 times that a 3 happens, adding all those 3's together is just the same as taking 4 lots of 3. Multiplying 3 by 4, we get 12. And we do this for each term. And when we have multiple terms, like 3 lots of 12, that's like going 12 plus 12 plus 12. That gives us 36. And adding all of these together gave us 164. And adding all of our frequencies together, that gave us 16. Well, wait a minute. Where have we seen these two numbers before? Well, they're here. Because our average value is the sum of the scores, which is given to us here, divided by the number of scores, which is given to us here. So you can kind of see what I'm saying here, right? Because yes, it took us a bit more effort to construct this table, but in constructing it, it's not that hard. You know, doing all these little calculations as we go, it's not that hard. But once we have all of that information, it makes these calculations a ton easier, in my opinion, especially when you have bigger data sets. Now, we only have 16 here, but when you're encountering bigger data sets, yes, it might take you some time to make your table, but I think in the end, it pays off quite nicely. So here, all we have to do for our mean is the sum total of our fx column divided by the sum total of our f column, which, like we saw before, is 164 divided by 16, which is about 10.25. Cool. So the calculations now, the actual statistical calculations, are made a little easier. Well, finally we move on to the median here. And what you might notice is, well, my scores are already in ascending order. I don't need to rewrite my data set like I did here. I just need to fill in my table. And everything's already nicely laid out. It's already in ascending order. This is great. This is a good tool that we have at our disposal. You can go back and draw and write everything like I've done here. It's up to you. But all of these things I'm giving you, these are just mathematical tools. This is like a builder, he's got his toolkit. He or she has their toolkit, and they can select different tools for different purposes. So I'm giving you all of these things not to try to pigeonhole you into, well, you have to do it this way or you have to do it this way. By exposing you to these different things, I'm just giving you extra tools to put in your kit to use when you need. A certain plot will be good for calculating one thing, another for something else. A frequency table may be beneficial to you, it may not be, but just having it in your toolkit makes approaching these questions quite a bit easier. Now, finally going with our median, well, we know that this is an even number, right? So we'll have kind of an equal number. This number is basically going to be split in half. So we have sort of 8 terms on one side, 8 terms on the other. Sort of in a way we did here. We have 8 terms here and 8 terms here. So our 8th and our 9th term will be the two medians. Or if there were 18 terms, 18 scores, we can split that number 18 into 2 And we'd see, well, the 9th and the 10th are going to be my middle. For odd numbers, it's a little bit different. A quick way I like to think of it is that you can find the median of an odd number of scores just by halving the number of scores and adding 1. That gives you the same effect. But you can try this actually writing down the numbers. But once again, I can tell that my median, well, it's going to be this number split in half. So I'm going to have my 8 terms on one side, my 8 terms on another side to give me 16. So my 8th and 9th will be my medians. But now here, check this out, because I have my frequencies here. So I can say, well, I've got 4 threes, and instead of counting each one, I can say, well, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My 8th, my 9th, and my 10th terms are all going to be 12. That's where this frequency column is beneficial, because I can just read off here and I can say, well, I know that these 3 terms are all going to be 12, and my 8th and 9th term are therefore going to be 12, just by counting up our frequency column. So we know again that our middle 2 terms are going to be 12 and 12, and we can average these out, and which we noticed in the previous example will give us 12. So like I said before, guys, sorry there's some background noise and neighbors mowing the lawn, but these frequency tables are a good item to have in your toolkit, because they make some of these, in my opinion, they make these calculations, which are the important ones, quite easy to work with. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you next time.